One of the things that I don't like about Christmas in Scotland, I like a lot of things. One of the things I don't like is a lot of people have Christmas without Christ. Christ. They have Christmas without Christ. It's like having football without a ball. Oh, okay. Okay, because the whole point of Christmas is Christ. It's the whole point. Um, it doesn't it doesn't matter how you celebrate. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what religion you are or if you're of no religion. It doesn't matter. But Christmas is about Christ. That's why we have Christ Mass, the Mass, the worship of Christ. That's what it means. You can't have Christmas without Christ. It misses the whole point. The whole point is understanding the birth of somebody that happened 2,000 years ago that changed maybe the history of the world. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying that's the point. Football without a ball is pointless. You're just gonna have 22 people running around, and everyone going, "Where's the ball?" So there must be some element of Christ in Christmas. It doesn't matter where or how, but it has to be there. The this modern idea of giving gifts to people is nice. I like it. I enjoy it. It's great. But there's a point to Christmas. The original reason for Christmas is a celebration of the birth of Christ. If you take part in Christmas activities, then it's necessary to understand why they exist. It's the celebration of the birth of someone who died so that everyone could live. I'm not a devout Christian, but I understand logic. And if you try to experience Christmas without Christ, in my opinion, you miss the whole point of Christmas.
There were very similar habits before the Christ.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very true. You have the winter solstice, the 21st of December. And I think the sun goes down below the horizon, and I think for 3 days, and then begins to appear above it, which would be, Christmas. Yeah, exactly. And so these traditions are obviously much older. You're right, and pre-Christ they celebrate. Pre-Christ they celebrated other gods and goddesses. So the interesting. I was reading this week, and in the early versions of the Bible, God had a wife. I didn't know that in the early versions of the Bible, but in the later versions, this was not included. A very, very interesting concept. And if you believe the Bible was divinely written, then these people lived normally. But in the story of the Bible, Jesus was not a normal person. He was the Son of God. Well, if you read the Bible, Jesus doesn't have a wife. Some people theorize that she could have been his wife, but at the moment, there's no evidence for it. But it's an open possibility because we don't know a lot of information we don't know. Definitely, there was a character called Mary. Definitely, Christ had a lot of female followers, probably more than male. But the information is lost in history. We don't know. There are lots of alternative theories that Jesus didn't die, or he got married and lived somewhere else, and they might be true. We just don't have the information. Um, you either take the scientific perspective, which is that miracles are not possible, or you take the fantastical perspective that miracles are possible. You can't really stand in the middle and say, well, both, because it's just not helpful or not useful. It's like you're married or you're not, right? It's not like I'm half married, right? Because it doesn't really work. So there's there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of information we don't have. Many stories were written and rewritten. Things get lost in translation. So we are not very close to the truth of what happened, especially 2,000 years later. But on the other side, we are discovering more and more about our history through science and archaeology. And we are discovering a lot of information which proves a lot of things in the Bible actually happened and were real. So the tax collection stories are real. The migration stories are real. The stories about the political figures and characters are real. So, and a lot of people were writing about the same things from different perspectives. Why would so many people write about the same thing if that thing never happened? That doesn't make any sense. Why would hundreds, maybe thousands of people write about exactly the same thing? Very important, very prominent, very educated people write about exactly the same thing they saw if that thing never happened, when there was no other way to record the information at that time. So it obviously something happened, but question mark. What was it? We don't really know. And the more I learn about the history of the topic, the more I'm amazed at how many things we're told in the modern world are wrong. Yeah, the things about the birth of Jesus, that like the 3 wise men followed a star and arrived at the birth of Jesus. Well, they didn't. They arrived 2 to 3 years after the birth of Jesus. And if you read the story in the Bible, and so we begin to understand that we're not really told the right story. Yeah, it's much more complex. Why did Herod order the killing of all children from 0 to age 5? Because he wasn't sure when this savior character was born. There was a 5-year period. He could have been born here or here, not sure, so we kill all the children up to age 5. Yeah. So basically now we're stuck with maybe 10,000 different versions of the story. So yeah, I mean, in the original Hebrew, the concept of God is not male, not female, not singular, not plural. And in the modern English version, it's male and singular. Obviously, that changes a lot of things. Obviously, it's not that. Obviously, that's not fair for women, right? Obviously, and this idea that then the church could have male priests and not female priests or something like that. I mean, that's it's just so arrogant and stupid. So definitely things change a lot. And yeah, it's crazy stuff like the transition from the Old Testament to the New Testament. It changed people's perspectives of religion. Can you rewrite the truth? No, not really. And it wasn't even, the New Testament wasn't even designed to be the New Testament. It was just letters. Basically, it started as letters that were written, and these letters were then collected and put together. So we have a small part of a lot of information. A lot of books were not included in the series of the Bible. The Bible is a collection of some stories, but not all the stories. It's interesting to go and read. Now that we have the internet, you can find the other versions on the internet. Yeah, I'm sure there are texts that exist that we don't know about. We are discovering things all the time. That the Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, we discovered, and then it took a long period of time to decipher them and to write them out. And then the Dead Sea Scrolls didn't contradict anything that's in the Bible, the biblical stories. It basically confirmed a lot of the information, but then people have different interpretations of what was written there. So that's that's crazy. But for me, the focus of Christmas should be the story of Christ. Everything else comes secondary, personally, to me. And I like all of the modern traditions, but it's not about what you get. It's about what you have and what you don't have. It's about appreciating the corruption of language that happens at Christmas, because gift, the words gift and present are very powerful words. I mean, a gift is not, if it's not something physical. Think about talents and skills. These are the real gifts that people have. They're not books and toys and clothes, but they're human behaviors and characteristics. They're the way that we are. Think about the word present. Present means here and now. Yeah, living in the moment. And then we have something called presence. There are two forms of the word. To be here. Your presence is the character of who you are. For example, sometimes a person walks into a room and everybody stops and goes, wow, that's presence. Yeah, charisma is a form of that, but charisma is a corruption of presence. Yeah, because, you can have false charisma, but you can't have false presence. Your presence is really and truly who you are. And so the idea of understanding presence, I think it's a corruption of understanding who you are. People think of it as objects, and it's part of that, yes. Yes, but it's more than your personality, it's your power. It's your inner power. Yeah. And so the true nature of giving and receiving is in the non-physical, not the physical. This is the language game. You can't you yes, yes. No, sorry. Yes, you're right. There's no other word. There isn't. It's a game. You have no choice. There is no alternative because there's no language alternative. Where there are no words, it's difficult to communicate. And the real gifts, the real presents are non-physical things. Yeah, these are how we behave towards each other, and so when we begin to understand this, the way that language is constructed, it's really important to get across this message. For me, to my family, to my children, it's important to get across the message that it's not about physical objects. It's about the human character. And I didn't see anybody else do that. I think Christmas should personally. I think Christmas should be spiritual as the first point, and then you can do everything else. You can give the gifts, you can do what you want, but the first message is a spiritual message that everything that is important is non-physical. And then you have the physical realities after that.